I was underage and still popular DJing, and I was like 18, 19, and I started getting hired to work at adult clubs where you had to be 21. You weren't really allowed to do that, but I got lucky and I was able to do that. So I was making a pretty good living DJing in adult nightclubs here in Vegas. That was around 1983, 84. Since I was making a decent living in the nightclubs, and I kind of knew what people liked, I knew what they screamed for, I knew what they rushed to the dance floor. I would get really interested in production. So I bought drum machines and I bought keyboards, brought them in the house, and I started doing like producing beats for like little local rappers, and I got really, really into that. And me and some other DJs that worked at the College Station, DJ Frankie and a guy named Dino, who later on became real famous, one of the first artists to break through out of Las Vegas. He had a big hit called Summer Girls, a big hit called I Like It. But we got together before all that and we recorded a record. It was our first record. This was 1986. It was called Def Con. It was an electro record. And I'll let you hear a piece of that. Oh, you got that? Yeah. This was West Coast's hip hop. The electro was really big on the West Coast, and we did this record. This had two different drum machines in it. You had an 808 and then it went to a DMX. It was like one of the first records to switch total drum sounds throughout the track. So you can hear that. We emulated the sounds of the West Coast, which Egyptian Lover was a big song on the West Coast. And this was, so it was all real up-tempo, electro sounding. So while the West Coast was on that electro tip, the East Coast was of course used with the rap and the hip hop, and this was the sound that was coming out at that time from New York. R.O.B, recognized as one of the best, MC lyricists of the day. So there was a lot of different styles of hip hop at the time. Totally different sounds, but you could play those at a nightclub and the dance floor would be packed with either sound going on. They loved everything. I really got into that producing bug for a few years, doing remixes and production for record labels and artists. When I worked with Dino, I co-produced that album, and I got 3 gold records out of it. We had a gold album and 2 gold singles out of it. So that just excited me, and I stayed in it for a while. I laid back off the DJing, and I went on tour with him. And I also DJ'd on the Arsenio Hall show, which I don't know if you guys remember that show, but I was one of the first guys to DJ on that show. And then I did remixes for Marky Mark, which was a popular white rapper back in the day. Rico Suave, which was the Latin rapper, did some stuff with him. And a lot of local artists in town. There was a guy named King J. I produced his album, which ended up being on Profile Records, which is the label that Run DMC was on. So that was a big East Coast influence on a label like that for a West Coast artist. A lot of other remixes for other labels and stuff. And then about 1989, I stopped touring. I opened my own recording studio and continued DJing at little local clubs. I started doing like production for shows on the Strip, like Splash, all the production numbers. Places like MGM, I did corporate jingles, did stuff for Disney. It was really good to get involved in the corporate America because the money was good. I could DJ, still have my fun DJing, and then do the corporate music and get paid for that as well. In the mid to late 1990s, the DJ became real popular. The nightclubs were huge. They weren't little 200 capacity rooms. They were getting to be really big. DJs became celebrities and were making great money. I was a weekly resident at a club called Utopia in 1998 and 99, and I would guest DJ at a club called Club Rio, Raw, Studio 54. These were the first hotel nightclubs in Vegas. Rio, then Raw, then 54, all opened up almost in the same year. And that was a huge trend that changed nightlife forever. It became very about, dressing up and bottle service and all that. It had its good sides and its bad sides. A lot of people weren't there for the music. They were there to be seen and buy the bottle and be a big shot. But that's the business. And during that time, I also got back on radio and did a mix show with Frankie again on 98.5. And then I became the music director and the resident DJ at a club at the Venetian called the C2K. And then I produced a house record, because house and techno became big. I still had my roots in hip hop, and I produced a techno record because it was real big at the time, but I put my hip hop influence in that record. In the breakdown of that record, I put like an old B-boy loop, and I did some scratching. A lot of my friends were saying, I can't believe you made a techno record and you didn't put no scratching in. And I said, wait till the break, and then they heard it. I'll give you a little taste of that. So that's a recognizable techno sound. And here's the breakdown where I put some hip-hop influence into it. It sounds like the old Black Sheep bass line, but it's from an old jazz record. They actually sampled it as well. And then here's the breakdown with some scratching. So when I released that record, it got signed to a domestic label here in the States, and because techno was big in the UK, I actually got a record deal in the UK as well, so they signed it to an import label there as well. And it gave me some more recognition. I was able to go on tour and DJ and do more stuff around the States. I was still DJing in the clubs here. I was DJing at a nightclub called The Drink, and that's where I met the owners of where I'm at now at the Palms. The 9 Group is the organization that runs the nightclubs at the Palms. I met them at The Drink, and I still have a recording studio in my house. I also started a DJ agency in about 2001 where I represent other DJs, try to get them booked locally or, you know, in the regional West Coast area. And I got about 10 DJs that I'm trying to do that for. So all that's history I gave you. It's just, I really believe that my career path was a direct result from my interest in hip-hop culture. And for those of you, you know, hip-hop is taking over. It's in commercials. You know, I think we have the president that we have now because hip-hop is huge, you know. Hope you like the shirt.